Hello and welcome to TUC0's Talks. It is Tuesday, which means that we get to interview other leaders and talk about leadership. And today we're talking about trust. But before we get there, just want to say a special thank you to Coach Connor Bruslin. Amazing conversation. If you haven't checked that out, go back to last week's because it is absolutely incredible. There are some great concepts of leadership, so hope you enjoy those. This week, retired Air Force Special Warfare Operator Mark Foster. He has been a mentor to me over the years. He's been someone who's just spoken truth into my life and given me everything that I needed to know to be successful. So I really appreciate Mark. So without further ado, today we're talking with Mark Foster. Hello and welcome to TUC0's Talks. I am here with Mark Foster. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. We have worked together multiple times throughout the career, and I have Mark on, and I haven't told him this yet because he's one of the very few guys that I know absolutely 100% of the time he's going to tell me the truth. And I love his honesty. I love that he gives it to me exactly how it is. And he really, really helped me in my career. And especially moving from one unit to the next, I assessed for one of the special operations units and just sort of sat and said, all right, Mark, give it to me. Tell me what the truth is and what we're doing. And man, I've always appreciated you, Mark, for that. And thanks for coming on.
Sure.
All right, so you've listened to a couple of the podcasts. You know what we're talking about. How do we develop leaders?
Yeah.
And you have been that senior leader, that person who has really mentored down to the people and then also mentored up the chain too. And so we'll get to those two different things first. So let's talk about mentoring down. What is it that you're looking for in a new leader, or what is it that you've really poured into a new leader at, say, a junior side?
Well, obviously there's several things. And I would start by saying when it comes to leadership, there are so many books and podcasts and just millions of articles and lessons you can go through when it comes to leadership. But leadership is really just, it's so broad. So to narrow it down to just one thing is hard to do. But I would say when I'm mentoring a new leader, the one thing that I want to impress upon them is be truthful. That's be truthful to the people above you. That's to be truthful to the people that you are leading. Because truth allows for good communication up and down the chain. And I'm a big fan of the saying, bad news doesn't get better with time. And as a leader, if you are not truthful or you're bending the truth a little bit, then somewhere along that chain, that is going to allow fissures that can really mess up your plan, whether that's in combat or stuff that I do now where I'm leading engineers on big projects. So I think, just out the gate here, truth is probably one of the biggest characteristics that a leader must embrace.
That's huge. And, it seems so easy. I'll just tell the truth, but it's hard, right?
Yeah.
You're in a certain circumstance. You don't want to let somebody down. You don't want to look bad. You're trying to protect your teammate or someone that may not have done things perfectly. What do you see as the biggest fallback, and why are people not being able to tell the truth? And then how do you lead them out of that?
Well, sometimes it can be hard. As a leader, you should know your people. You should be friends with them. I would assume that most of the people you're leading, you generally like and you enjoy being around. So sometimes telling the truth to somebody, it's tough to do because you have to deal with that negative feedback. Also, when you're truthful with somebody, maybe their performance is poor or they're not where they should be at a certain level of work, or they fail on a project. As a leader, after you deliver that truth, hey, you've done a bad job here or you've messed this up, you're required to mentor that person back up to a certain level. So I think sometimes it's some leaders, they may find it easier to just lie or bend the truth and say, hey, you did a good job there, when in reality they didn't, because as a leader, it's going to require you to do some work on the back end when you're giving someone the ground truth, especially when that truth is negative feedback on perhaps performance or a project they were on.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. That's so hard, right? The negative feedback and given the bad news, and you want to be able to build bridges, but sometimes you just got to
Yeah,
be honest and talk them through. So that's a great
right.
point. Okay, let's pivot. That's your subordinate. That's someone that you're trying to build up as leader. What about your boss? Like, what are you looking for, and how do you? So, if people aren't familiar, you've got a senior NCO who's usually 15 to 17 years in, and they've got this new captain, maybe 4 to 6 years, who's green, doesn't know
Yeah.
anything, and trying to lead, and you're mentoring this new leader. What is it that you're trying to develop in there? And if you could tell me, don't name names, but tell me about a leader who did it right.
Oh gosh, that's hard to tell. Uh, I'm going to say you are one of those guys, I think, who did it right. And I know you didn't pay me to say that, and I'm saying that honestly. But man, when you came to Pope, and came to the 14th ASOS and took over, you and I had a lot of interaction. You had a lot of NCOs and senior NCOs underneath you that, quite frankly, had boatloads of more experience than you did. And I think the main thing that I wanted to pass on to you, and we had many conversations, we had many leadership challenges you and I dealt with together. The one thing that I wanted to impart to you is, hey, you're part of the team, and the biggest thing you can do is be a listener, and listen to your guys. And I think you did that very well. You always had guys in your office. You always wanted to learn. As a leader, you want to learn and you want to listen to those people, your subordinates. But in the military, it's important because experience sometimes does not uh, equate to rank. So you came in. Obviously, you were the man in charge. You're the leader now of this airborne unit, but you were willing to listen. And so I tell all leaders that, hey, be willing to listen to your guys. Find those guys that are experienced and listen to them, and then you can make better, more informed decisions.
Yeah, no, that's so true, and it's great when you have super experienced people. So when you walked in, and I was like, all right, I've got a guy who's been there, done that. Go, like, run with it,
Yeah.
and you had a captain there who was young, but I think he was a prior enlisted too, so he had a lot of experience
Yeah.
on that, and just
Yeah. Great
the
guy.
the two of y'all were awesome together. Okay, so we've talked about leading down, we've talked about leading up. It's always hard to walk away, and in the military, you're going to retire, and that's a tough decision, as it always is. You're senior NCO. You've developed so many people. When you're walking away, what is it that either you've said, that you've done, that leads to the confidence of now my leaders are ready, and I feel that they're ready to go?
Well, what I'm seeing is that they're leading by example. As a leader, watching the young guys come up through the ranks, and then when I left the Pentagon, what I saw is guys leading from the front at all levels of leadership, whether that's the airman that's in charge of a couple other airmen, to your NCO, senior NCO, and so on and so forth. I saw the guys leading from the front no matter what level they were at. And so as I walk away, that's what I saw when I was walking away from my career. One of the many things, the great things, is that the guys were leading from the front, and they were ready to take that mantle from the highest levels at the Pentagon. And, some guys went on to be command chiefs, but they were ready to lead from the front. And so as I walked away, I knew that the career field and the Air Force in general was in good hands, with the guys that I mentored and the guys that mentored me, that they would always lead from the front. And I knew that I was leaving the Air Force better than I left it, and I knew it would be way better long after I retired.
Yeah, I constantly say that. Wow, this development of the Air Force Special Warfare, the
Oh
young
yeah,
leaders that are coming through, it is
that's
in
incredible.
far better hands than when I was there. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so that is a lot of fun to watch. And I jump on LinkedIn all the time, and I'm like, all right, what are these guys doing? And I always say, what are these kids doing? And they're like lieutenant colonels, and some of them are colonels, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. But that's a lot of fun. All right, so that's the military side. I think trust and listen to your people.
Yep.
Those are the two main points, and that's fantastic. All right, so you're out of the military now. You're in a working for another company.
Yep.
Talk to me about, has leadership changed at all? And if so, if not, what are you learning now?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm learning every day. And when I left the military and went to where I work now for a major aerospace company in the Dayton area, one thing I learned is leadership is much more situational. You got to have a great deal of emotional intelligence. Now, you have to have emotional intelligence in the military for sure. However, in the military, it's not a democracy. When you're the leader, you are the leader. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, you make a decision. Your guys and your gals have been trained to do what you tell them to do, and they are going to press forward into that fire. When you're dealing with engineers, you're dealing with coworkers with different backgrounds, different pedigrees of education. It's very situational, and you got to have the emotional intelligence to deal with certain personalities. Some people are go-getters, some people are slow starters, some people don't need to be told what to do and micromanaged. So I guess one of the biggest things I've learned is that leadership is situational, more so than it was in the military, and you really got to hone your skills and have an emotional intelligence to understand the situation and the person that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, because it's different every single day and it's different with every single person.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it there. And so it is absolutely different with everybody, and being able to, like you said, listen and be that empathetic listener. Not
Yeah,
only what are you saying, but where are you coming from on this, and how do I work with you? Uh,
absolutely.
People are different. I mean, there's a mass thought difference, lifestyle difference. Everything is so different in the military. We're not all the same, but we think a lot alike, and so
We do.
it's easier
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. So closing thoughts. What you're talking to Tuco Talks listeners and followers. We're all about leadership. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything that you want to pass on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said at the beginning, there's so many things on leadership, books and lessons and podcasts. There's not one right answer. So anyone listening to this podcast that says, you know what, I'm going to listen to what Mark Foster says and just do that, you're probably failing as a leader, because you need to be looking all over the place and really developing your own leadership style. But there's one word that I think is important when it comes to leadership, and it's probably the biggest blessing we have as leaders, and that word is failure. Failure is an incredible blessing because it's an opportunity to learn, to look at what you did right to get to that point, and in line with that, do not be afraid to fail. Failing is not bad. Failing is an opportunity to learn. Now, I understand on the battlefield, failing can mean lives. But in the world that I live in, where I'm doing business development, I'm working with engineers, and working on projects, we are not afraid to fail. Because if we do fail, we will learn from those mistakes and hopefully not make them again. But I would say, Chris, as a leader, don't be afraid to fail, and consider it a blessing when you do, because it's an opportunity to learn and grow as a leader.
Man, that's awesome. Yes, absolutely. Star that one. failure is such a blessing and an opportunity to learn. And if that's the case, I'm the most blessed person out there. So fantastic.
I'm with you.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're busy, but I really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on. I consider you a definite mentor of mine, someone who has taught and spoken truth into me, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Keep up the good work with the podcast, and it was so nice getting caught up with you, and just incredibly blessed that you invited me here for a few minutes and listen to what I have to say. I just very much appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Well, from Mark and I, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And this is TUC0's Wright. Checking out.